guys, welcome back to another episode of Notes of a Curious Mind. My mind being the curious one, and maybe yours if you're here listening to it. We're just here asking a bunch of questions and then asking some more questions and being fascinated by being human and humanity and God, why are we so weird? So every single episode we are having a look at a different question. Today we're having a look at why do some people think that they need religion in order to be a good person? Right? Why do we think religious automatically means good? I think obviously nowadays we're waking up to it more and more. A lot more information, news, truth, stories. Yeah, and it's making a lot of people go, whoa, I didn't know that was happening in these places slash belief systems that are supposed to be, all about love and kindness and sharing and all of those things. And then the rest of us who kind of, pretty much knew it the whole time along are just like, yeah, exactly. Which sometimes leads me around to this question. There's a lot of people in religions, and I do want to say the reason that it's so obvious in religions like Christianity and even Islam, things like extremism, extreme views, and extreme beliefs and stuff, is there is a lot of them. Christianity is the number one major religion. It's got like over 2 billion, something like that. And Christianity, 2.4, somewhere around 2.4 billion followers, and it's about 31.2% of the entire population of this world. Wow! 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 Oh my goodness me. I mean, I love Jesus, okay? I love if Jesus did exist and he was like a guy, if that was his story, then I'm pretty sure he's a cool guy and he's super chill and you know. Um I mean, the same with any religion, really. I could look at any religion: Christianity, Islam, Buddhism. So I'm sure there are parts of every religion, the ultimate goal of each one. I'm like, yeah, I totally agree with you. Let's be kind to each other. Let's make this a sort of heaven on earth, and that's possible to achieve that kind of enlightenment while you're a human. And it's about being a better person or contributing or I don't know, just a whole bunch of stuff. I agree with all of those things. Do you know what I mean? Like, that just makes sense. My question really comes down to, okay, so if those things didn't exist, are those things not common sense? Are those things not what we are naturally born with? And again, this is not me being sarcastic. I genuinely am asking this question. Okay, so if some people didn't have that religion, then if they were not born into it, or if they were not given that structure, or if they didn't choose religion or something like that, and they didn't give themselves those confines, especially those, let's call them extreme in terms of their views and their beliefs. They go so hard at it. I believe this the most. I'm going to stick to every single letter that is in this book. Those kinds of religious nuts, right? Like, if you didn't have it, does that mean then that you would just go and do all of those things that the Bible or whatever says not to do? Like, did you need that book to tell you not to do it, or was it not just naturally built into you? Does society not do a good enough job to let us know that, ending someone's life is bad? But then it comes into all of the extra stuff, right? Because that's common sense. I feel like we don't need to be taught that. Most of us can be born and grow up not wanting to end somebody's life. Maybe sometimes in a jovial, as a joke. But none of us, like most of us, are not going around actually wanting to do that. That, like, it feels wrong to us. It would feel uncomfortable. We would feel unsettled with that. We would be able to live with it. Do you know what I mean? But then it comes in all the other stuff, right? Because there's so many severely religious people, especially in Christianity. And again, I think it's maybe because there's just so many of them, so they're the ones that are heard the most, sort of, when it comes to these sorts of things. But they complain about things like music and movies, watching Harry Potter and listening to, I don't know, Taylor Swift. I don't do either of those things. Oh, I read Skullduggery Pleasant, right? Skullduggery Pleasant is a skeleton detective with magic powers, and it's set in a world with magic and stuff like that. So me reading Skullduggery Pleasant would be demonic, like would be bad, would be sin. A sin. That's what I'm thinking of. It would be a sin. Why is it a sin? I'm just enjoying a book. I'm not sat here actually, number one, believing that Skullduggery Pleasant is real. And number two, I'm not sat here um, thinking that I have like actual magical powers. And then even if I did, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be cool to have? Why is it a sin? I think it's a sin because God's supposed to be the one who controls everything. But then if that's true, then why are you coming to me complaining about reading Skullduggery Pleasant trying to control me if God controls everything? Then you don't need to worry about it and you don't need to do it. It's so contradictory. I have so many questions. So I've collected a few posts here from Reddit and TikTok and things like that. Just having a look around online at like what other people are saying about it, and some experiences that people had and stuff or whatever. One of them was on Reddit here, which I think it's from r/ex-Christian. Yeah. So this is a group of people who support community for people who used to be Christians, or maybe Christians who are, have been able to separate themselves from more extreme views and more, ludicrous belief systems, really. Right. And I thought this was a really good point that the question that I have kind of makes, right? Why do you feel that you need religion, Christianity, because this one's talking about Christianity, but why do you feel that you need religion to be a good person? If you didn't have it, does that make you automatically a bad person, right? So I'm going to put it up here on the screen for those of you watching on YouTube. Don't worry, for those of you who are listening on podcast, I am going to read it out here anyway. So I can't read that. Oh, Big McPhee says Christians don't want you to enjoy simple things, so they label it as a sin so they can justify you making you deprive yourself. Music, books, yoga, TV shows, certain movies, wearing certain clothes, basic acts like schmecks or swearing. People have witnessed their loved ones throwing out prized collections they spent years making because they got religion, and the preacher said that the harmless hobby that brought them joy is now a door for Satan. That's confusing me. How does a hobby that brings you joy, how is that a door for Satan? Now, I think that the answer would be, well, Satan's going to try and tempt you. He's going to try and tempt you down a path, or he's going to try and tempt you with something that you find pleasurable. These are somewhat pleasurable, like these are pleasurable things, right? Maybe swearing's kind of pleasurable, So I can understand. I think that's what the answer would be, is that, well, Satan would arrive to you in the form of pleasure, which is tempting, making you want it, and then you do it, have it, say it, whatever, and then the door is open for Satan. But then my question is, hold on a minute. Well, that's entirely confusing then, because am I not supposed to be creating heaven within myself by doing these things? Reading Skullduggery Pleasant, wearing certain clothes. So, like, I don't know, wearing clothes with skulls on. Certain movies, like I said, Harry Potter. Or I mean, I'm a Lord of the Rings person myself, so I'm sure that's probably a sin, right? According to the severely religious Christians. I'm sure Lord of the Rings has got to be a sin, right? But I'm like, okay, so those things bringing me pleasure that somebody created, the God created the person who created this story, and then other people who created the movie, and blah 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 blah, but don't enjoy it. I don't understand. So what you're saying, if pleasure is a door for Satan, then is the whole point to not be in pleasure at all? It seems like people who believe that might believe that suffering. Oh wait, because Jesus, suffering is like how you are close to God. Suffering is how you are close to Jesus. Suffering is how you atone for your sins, or something. Maybe suffering is what declares to God and the universe that you are, I don't know, close to God or something. Like, what is that? Why do you need to suffer in order for it to? Why can you not do something pleasurable, watch something pleasurable, have something, eat something, smell something, look at something that brings you pleasure, in case it's a door for Satan? Because what if that's the pleasure that God is trying to bring you? Are you just like electively choosing to not enjoy something that you might enjoy that God created, because, he created everything, just in case it's a door for Satan. But I would argue with you, would Satan not turn up in the least tempting of places? Would Satan not turn up? He wouldn't turn up in Lord of the Rings, right? You watch Lord of the Rings and you see Sauron or something, the bad guy, or you watch Harry Potter and you see Voldemort, whatever, and that's like, oh, that's Satan, right? That the Satan is obviously there on the screen because it's fire and brimstone and it looks all scary, or something like that. Satan is in the magic of Harry Potter or something because, only God can control the elements of the universe and stuff. So us wanting or trying to do it as witches or wizards is a sin, right? Which again, I would argue, well, if that's the case, I mean, God made us in his image, so we do not have the power of God. We don't manipulate and control events and manifestation and things like that or whatever. Obviously not, because apparently we have to be suffering. According to these severely religious people, we should be suffering in order to, I don't even know why. At this point, I would love for someone to come and tell me, why do I have to suffer? Right? Why do I have to take away everything that I enjoy in order to be more religious or closer to God or a better practitioner or something like that? Right? And I'm like, would Satan not come up in like least tempting places? He wouldn't show up so obviously as Sauron, surely. Surely he wouldn't show up so obviously as Voldemort in Harry Potter, right? Surely he would turn up in the guise of an evangelical preacher, right? Where you turn up and there's thousands of people sitting there all listening to him yelling and shouting and listening to her spieling off her hate speech about anybody different from them and this, that, and everything else, and like all of that visceral hatred and anger and disgust like coming out of their mouths, and you're going to tell me that that's not obviously Satan? Like, would he not turn up in the least expected of places and then try and tempt you? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, I think he does, you guys. I don't think he cares about Lord of the Rings because he wouldn't bother showing up in the most obvious of places. I don't think he cares about movies. I don't think he cares about movies. That's not where he's getting us, right? Like, if he exists, and listen, like, I'm talking here, like, I'm going to go based on all of this is a reality and stuff. Let me put myself in that perspective. I still don't get it. I still don't get it. All right. Let's have a look at some of these comments here. Okay, so Timotheus Magnus says the most hated question directed at me was always, does it glorify God? What a that's a great question. Like, again, putting myself in the perspective of those severely religious people, in this case, severely religious Christians, I can see how that would be a good question. Like, does it glorify God? That's where the pleasure comes from. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I can't have pleasure from my own pleasure, my own individual pleasure of enjoying watching Lord of the Rings, reading Skullduggery Pleasant, participating in a yoga session, or listening to some kind of crazy heavy metal screamo music or something. That's me enjoying things that I enjoy, because I enjoy a lot of things. But that pleasure is a sin. That pleasure is a sin. But the pleasure that I get from doing something, taking part in something, or consuming something that I know or believe to glorify God, that's where I can get my pleasure from. So it's not my pleasure, it's the pleasure on behalf of the Lord. Right. Which is crazy, because that's how I feel about the universe. That's how I feel about the universe. I'm like, everything that I'm doing is just feeding information back to the universe. I like to tell the universe what things taste like. I like to tell the universe the texture of things, the smell of things, the sound of things. I like to say to the universe, hey, listen to this music through my ears and the way it makes me feel, right? Like, thank you, universe, for creating the person who created this thing, Or I was doing it the other day with watermelon, just eating some watermelon and just like, I love you. How could you have created something so freaking perfect? Like, the way it mushes in my mouth and all the juice explodes and it's so sweet and sticky and how could you have created something so perfect? Like, thank you for this watermelon, right? But at no point does the question come in for me, like, am I doing it the way that the universe wants? Because I understand the universe doesn't have a personality. The universe's personality is my personality. It's also your personality. It's infinite personalities, right? And I think if I were to term it in the terms of God, that is still how I would feel about it. God is not out there with a separate personality of their own, of his own, her own. It's God's not out there not liking Harry Potter. I don't think God cares about whether Harry Potter exists or not. It's just that if it does, let's make the best of it, right? If it does, let's do something with the creation of that, right? Which evidently it has, because it's infected the whole population of the entire world and everybody loves it. I'm sure I mean, in me, I am not a Harry Potter movie fan, but I am a huge book fan. And I'm sure it's one of the massivest reasons I ended up writing my own books, writing my own fanfics, being a published author at 14 years old. Like, uh, the creation of the thing led to prosperity and joy and accomplishment and abundance in my life, right? And I don't understand how God would be against that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think God's up there not liking yoga and then you having to not like yoga on God's behalf. You just made that up yourself. I feel like some of these severely religious beliefs are just validation. That I am trying to validate, excuse, and specifically justify my prejudices. My prejudices. Yeah? And what I will notice is that a lot of those things usually come from other people, right? Oh, they're not like us. So the thing that they're doing that is not like us is also a sin. Yeah? Oh, they're not like us because they speak a different language, come from a different place, have different customs, have a different culture, play a different music, something, whatever. I am offended or scared or uncomfortable with that, whatever. So the things that they're doing as well, I'm going to also just label them as a sin. So that justifies me not taking part in it, or me not wanting to take part in it, or me not having to ever get close to them or near to them or partake in any kind of way or whatever. You know? Yeah, justification. I mean, that's what this whole thing is here, right? Justification. What? Okay, so here's one from Root Beer Man. Oh my gosh. Yay, we are best friends. Root beer is literally the best drink that was ever invented. And I don't know why I love it so much, because I'm aware it's just some weird herb thingies and it tastes like medicine. But I don't care. It's tasty. Okay. Okay, Root Beer Man 77. Once I ordered Pokemon Yellow from an online seller in order to complete my collection, and my dad flipped the F out. I thought we raised you better. What kind of example are you setting for your siblings? How dare you? Etc. I was attending seminary and in my 20s. I thought he was upset that I participated in an online auction. Is that a sin? Is that one a sin? Nope. He was still convinced that Pokemon was evil long after the church had moved on to other things to Satanic Panic over. Yeah, Satanic Panic that's a really good one. Yeah, that's a whole topic. We should do a whole one on that, right? Satanic Panic, by the way, is not over. It's just, it's quieter now because we have the internet and we have um conversation outside of religious spheres that people are allowed to. We can talk about science, and some of us can talk about the occult and magical witchcrafty fun things and stuff, and everybody's a huge nerd now as well. We're all nerding out over everything and blah blah. So I think Satanic Panic it's just become less at the front. It's become less at the front of media and news and everyone's opinions and stuff. But I do think it's very much still there. I think it just moves, like this guy says, it just moves on from one thing to the next to the next. Well, in the 80s, it was preschools and things like that. But I mean, there was instances of that happening, but because of it happening in these small pockets and stuff, the entire freaking country and the Western here in the UK, it happened as well. The entire freaking thing just blew up. Everybody started fearing Satanic Panic. We started having things like horror movies come out as well, like genuinely scary movies. Things that were not black and white, stop motion Nosferatus and stuff. We're talking Exorcist level things and stuff. And I think that had a huge impact as well. There were a lot of horror movies that were, because it was becoming more accepted and more desired, to go, have a bit of a thrill, adrenaline rush watching a scary movie. There were a lot of ideas and existing stories and stuff, IPs or whatever, that were taken and turned into horror ideas. You know, we're still doing it now. And I think, you know, it was just louder back then because, you know, everyone had not a lot to talk about. No offense, 80s. They did have a lot to talk about. That's not true. There has always consistently throughout history been more and more and more to talk about. It's just now we've got the internet. That's what freaking changed it, you guys. Now we've got the internet. There's so many more voices. There's so many more stories. We can all hear almost everyone if we wanted to and stuff. And I think it's there's just other things now that we're talking about. But satanic panic still exists. Clearly it does. Clearly it does, because there's still people just wandering around scared, perpetually terrified. Like this is another question I have. Okay, so if these are your beliefs and that's what you're going to go on, are you not then perpetually in a state of terror? Right? Every time you leave your house and walk down the street, unless you live in some kind of religious extreme community thingy or something, some kind of culty compound, well, and you go out and you're living in your normal day, do you not walk into the supermarket and you're terrified when you walk down the book aisle and see X, Y, and Z? Are you not walking past people wearing clothes and you're scared about this, that, and everything else? Are you not hearing music every time you turn on the radio? Are you not like seeing stuff on your phone every time you go on the internet? Like, so, wow, seems like if anybody is getting the job done here, it might be Satan. A perpetual state of fear, literally opting to choose to not participate in things that bring you pleasure, because are they glorifying God? Essentially, they must only bring pleasure to God, otherwise I can't have pleasure. So I'm just saying, like, I'm just taking in the information. All right, this is all just my opinion and my perspective, because I feel like I'm an alien just here observing and reporting back to my planet or something. There's a bunch of people probably going to say that's satanic, isn't it? Can't fucking win. Excuse my language. You can't win. I'm going to have to set this as explicit, you guys, because I am going to swear. I don't think I'm going to be able to help it as time goes on and podcasts go on. I don't think I'm going to be able to help it. Better stop labeling it as explicit, hey? But yeah, I'm just observing. I'm just here. I'm looking. I'm not here to like judge you. Are you a good person? Are you? Clearly, you're doing that for yourself. All right. And it don't even matter what I think, because I ain't God. All right. I'm just curious. This is me with my curious mind making some notes, okay? And the notes that I'm making is, seems like Satan might actually be getting the job done here, because they are literally just living as if there is nothing to be happy about, walking around terrified because everybody else is not living the way that they're living, and what if they don't and the rapture comes and then they're terrified of burning in hell for all of eternity, so they make sure that they do these things. That sounds a little bit like control and manipulation. That sounds a little bit like what Satan is doing. That sounds a little bit like maybe you fell into his trap. Just saying. All right, let's have a look at a TikTok video. We've done a Reddit post. Let's do a TikTok video. When I see videos, when I see posts, you guys, mostly like other people who do video essays or podcast essays, whatever. This is not that. Rantings. I'm not doing an essay. This is a ranting and a raving. That's my ranting and ravings. A lot of people who do, you just go and have a look, you get the gist of it, you don't read the entire thing properly, you don't watch the entire video, you just think, that might be something to react to respond to, etc., etc. So, this one is on TikTok from Faith. It says, many people are not okay in London. I just didn't want to be rude. Never knew going to the gym was a sin. POV, you just came out of the gym, as in point of view. What? Yeah. You just came out from the gym and a strange lady started screaming at you, saying you'd go to hell because you went to the gym. Interesting. So for those of you who can't see, I'm going to play the audio and stuff. And then we're going to talk about it. Let's have a look.
Totally naked. Fakeness is a sin. Fakeness is a repent. Call the name of Jesus. If you don't call Jesus and die, you will die eternal death. And you will not be in the creation of God anymore. You're going to be destroyed by fire. Eternity destroyed.
So going to the gym is a sin?
It's a sin. I was a pastor, I told you.
So I should not go to the gym?
Yes.
Okay. Going to the gym is a sin. It is a sin. I was a pastor. She's saying I was a pastor, so trust me, I know what is a sin and what's not. And she's saying going to the gym is a sin? Okay.
Exercising in the gym is a sin. There's a time.
I should not plait my hair.
Yes, it's a sin. Go and read about First Peter chapter 3 verse 3 and First Timothy chapter 2 verse 9.
So I will go to hell because I'm plaiting my hair and going to the gym.
Plaiting your hair and wearing sin. Sin is the wages of.
Okay, so let me explain something here. This lady seems to be dealing with, I don't want to say suffering with, because she might not say that, but this lady seems to be dealing with religious psychosis. I mean, it's quite clear there might be other underlying personality or mental health issues or something, because yeah, she is not really coherent in what she's saying, even aside from accent. Like, I can understand everything she's saying, but she's still babbling, she's rambling, she's blah, 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 something about First Timothy 1 or Timothy 2 chapter 2 verse 9. We'll have a look. Let's have a look. Timothy 1, 2 verse 9. Okay, despite some phrases which are unclear, the core message is fairly well defined. Women are not to focus on dramatic appearance or behavior, but to put their efforts into godliness and good works. Right. Okay, let me read the actual verse here. So, 1 Timothy chapter 2 verse 9. In like manner also, women adorn themselves in modest apparel, with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with broided hair or gold or pearls or costly array. Women adorn themselves in modest apparel. She's wearing a modest apparel, isn't she? She's wearing she's wearing white linen, just a white cloth, a scarf. She's got a scarf around her head. She's covering her hair. All her clothes are the same color. She's just draped in this whiteness. There's no shape to her figure or anything like that. Right. So what she's saying is, and what Timothy 9:2-9 is saying here is, women going to the gym, dressing even in gym wear, even though it's technically for sports and stuff, or workout, and braiding your hair is vanity, some kind of vanity, right? And if you as a woman put any thought or care into looking more attractive, being sexier, or anything like that, then you're taking away from your efforts that you could be putting into God. Okay, I get it. Also, it adds here as well, women are also not to override the spiritual leadership of men. Does anybody feel like the Bible was written by men for men? Does anybody feel like that? Because I sure do. Yeah? Because it's funny. It's funny that you say that. Because, honestly, it seems like there's a lot of men out there who really love a good dramatic appearance, and so on and so forth. So, but I suppose that's the devil, isn't it? Them giving into that is the devil, I suppose. Being attracted to someone because they are attractive. The devil. Yeah? Do you know what? Do you know where Satan is operating right now? In that woman's head. He's not operating inside the woman recording the video, who's just going to the gym because, working out is fun or whatever she wants to do. Trying to lose a bit of this or that, or maybe she just had a kid and, it's a year later, she's trying to get it off. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. Like, we literally don't care why she's going to the gym. Girl, you do you. Wearing gym clothes. That's not the devil. That's not the devil, because she enjoys wearing those clothes. She feels good about it. And she doesn't feel good about it necessarily. As we all know, women going to the gym don't dress like that because they freaking want attention. 1% of them do. All right? Yeah. But most of them, I promise, they're just going to the gym. Sportswear is just comfortable and it does its job and blah, blah, blah. We kind of all know this, right? And plaiting her hair. It's not the devil. She likes plaiting her hair. Maybe she plaited her hair because it keeps it out of her face while she's doing her gym. Maybe she's plaiting her hair because, I don't know, she's doing a pantomime later and she's got to wear a wig for it or something. Whatever. Like, she's got her reasons for it. At no point did she sit down and, through fear, hatred, malicious intent, any kind of negativity, did she A, do her hair, B, wear her clothes, or C, go to the gym. Right? She's probably got some unhealthy belief systems in there from society and all of those things, but that's just normal stuff. You know, those are our little demons that we all deal with. Where is the devil operating? It is inside that woman's head. She's terrified. She feels the need to come up to somebody and correct them, because if she doesn't, then she's going to feel like she's not doing what she should be, which is fear, worry, doubt, anxiety, blah, 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 which is the devil. It just seems obvious to me. And again, this brings me back to my earlier point as well. If you believe that, because this is a Christian, she's quoting the Bible, so she's some kind of Christian here, okay? If she believes that God is the one that needs to do everything, God is the one that, you know, controls everything, who's in charge of everything, who runs the show, why does she feel the need to go up to this lady and tell her what to do and what not to do? Because is God not going to sort that out? And if God doesn't sort that out, is this lady wearing gym clothes going to the gym? She's just going to get her penance then. If that's what's going to happen, then why do you feel like and I think maybe there's some righteousness in being the person to point out to people and to this lady that what you're doing is a sin. Like that scores me brownie points with God if I'm the one that calls it out, right? It's like, it's sort of a bit of a teacher's pet, you know? And I wasn't a teacher's pet, actually. I just really enjoyed school. There's a difference between enjoying school and being a teacher's pet. And a teacher's pet is just like, pick me, choose me. It's oh my gosh, it's kind of a pick me complex, but with God. I think I just answered my questions. Well, some of them. I still have many more, obviously. I think that just answered quite a significant portion of the questions. Why do people go like this? Why do people react? Why do people go ascribe to this severely religious viewpoint, especially Christians, man? Oh my gosh, why do they have to see everything as a sin and everything as an opportunity to be victimized or prejudiced against? Is that the word? Prejudiced at? Because then you can turn around and say, look, see, I'm dealing with it, I did it, or I'm pointing it out, like, give me brownie points, you know what I mean? The more persecuted, that's the word, the more persecuted I am, the closer I am to God. The more suffering I am, the closer I am to God. The more I point out what everyone else is doing as being a sin, then I can, like, it's like being a snitch. Oh my gosh, it's like being a snitch. I'm imagining God like sat on this massive, huge, I don't know, throne or something like that, right? And he is giant for some reason. I'm seeing him like the Simpsons God. That is genuinely how I see God. It's like the God from Simpsons. You never see his face. He's just flitting the clouds with his sandals on and stuff, you know? And then there's like, you know, representation of severely religious people. Like this is one person just sat next and just going, look, God, see, look, they just did that thing, God. I'm telling on you. You remember we used to do that on the playground? I'm telling on your name. Oh, I'm telling Miss on you, right? Like I'm telling the teacher on your name. Like we used to do that all the time. It's literally like that same kind of thing. It's almost like having turned God into this parental authority figure or whatever, which, yeah, okay, I kind of get that's the point-ish of him. That and then it's like standing at his feet and just like pulling his clothes every single time somebody does something. Look, they're wearing a skull on their t-shirt, God. They're wearing a skull on their, and then it's like as God's going to turn around and be like, well done, little Christian. Good. Pat. And then you just stand there going, see, I'm a good Christian because God said so. Because I called out you wearing a skull on your t-shirt and listening to heavy metal music. You're not allowed to do that. God said no. God, he's doing it again. I don't like. Make him stop. Woo. Not at all realizing that the person that they are actually tapping on the knee and pulling the cloth off and saying, God, he's wearing it, is literally Satan. Right? Satan operates, if we're going based on what it teaches, Satan operates through fear, division, hatred, anger, like all of the negative emotions, right? All of the negative experiences, all of the negative perspectives and stuff or whatever, you know? So when you're sat there going, look, I don't like what, they're not doing something good, see, God, see? Oh, how is that operating out of love? How is that operating out of love for your fellow human being? Like essentially snitching on them, right? Like, God doesn't want you to snitch. Why would he need you to snitch if he knows everything? Is he all-knowing or not? He knows they're wearing a skull t-shirt, and he's going to deal with it if you don't like it. But, you know, he doesn't really not like things because he's also all-loving. Stop telling me that he's all-knowing and then feel the need to snitch on everyone all of the time. As if everything that you think is a sin, right? Just because you think it's a sin. Right? Like, oh! But then in the other way, he's all-loving, but somehow he doesn't like that person. What? I'm pretty sure God, if he exists, does he know how to not like things? Does he know how to not like things? Or does he know how to just give tough love lessons and things like that? Right? I'm pretty sure he doesn't have the capacity to hate. Right? I don't know. All loving or not. All knowing or not. All powerful or not. It can't be, yes, he is, but he doesn't do it, because that's not all powerful. That's not all knowing. That's not all loving. Right? We as humans get to have the free choice. Right? God. No. All loving, all knowing, all powerful, or not. Then you don't need to go over to this lady and tell her that her gym clothes are a sin and gym is the sin and blah, blah, blah. Because if he's all knowing, he'll sort it out. And if he was all loving, he genuinely doesn't give a crap. Because he's all loving. And he just wants her to enjoy her life and go to the gym and be happy with herself and prosperous and all of those things. He genuinely doesn't care. As if he don't have better things to do with his infinite time anyway. Do you know what I mean? He's probably out there just making some aliens, just forgot about humans, like, what are you guys doing over here? And then comes back to Earth and is like, whoa, that's not what I intended. How did you guys F this up so bad? I was just gone for a couple of millennia making aliens. Jeebus. And then Jeebus is like, what? And I said Jeebus, not Jesus. Oh, I make myself laugh, you guys. I really do. So many questions. I think anybody who is here and listening to this probably knows, right? Religion is not necessary. You do not need to have religion in order to be a good person. Having religion does not automatically make you a good person. And not having religion doesn't automatically make you a bad person, right? I don't think this is about pleasure. I don't think this is about sin. When it comes to these severely religious nuts views, perspectives, I don't think it's about sin. I don't think it's even about what's right and what's wrong. I think it's about ego. I think it's about proving to oneself and, more importantly, everyone else around that I am righteous. By which I mean right, but righteous is probably more the right word. I am the closest to God because I follow every single letter of the law inside of this book that doesn't really make any sense. And by pointing out that you're not doing that, person listening to rock music, watching Harry Potter and stuff, the more I point that out to myself, people around me, and to God, the more righteous I will be. It's just feeding their ego. It's feeding their ego, which again, when you live in that kind of an ego state, which is, it's not borderline narcissism, but it can sort of adopt narcissistic traits. That, by definition, requires first the initial state of fear, of doubt, of lack or whatever, right? Having to overcompensate your ego, like to feel closer to God or whatever, you have to first initially start with not feeling like you're close enough, with a fear that you're not close enough, with a fear that you're not good enough or righteous enough. And by doing these things and calling people out for doing yoga and all of this stuff and trying to get people to only live for the pleasure of God. Oh God, that's horrible. That's awful. Live solely for the pleasure of another being. I don't care how powerful they are. Right? You live for the pleasure of yourself and you trust that that's what God gets the pleasure from. Right? If you're not out here hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself, you're not endangering this, that, and everything else. If you're just living your life innocently on your own terms. If you are pleasuring for yourself, that's what God gets pleasure from. Yeah? It's not God's separate pleasure from your own. And it's understanding that somebody else's pleasure that is different from your pleasure is still God's pleasure. Pleasure is not temptation from Satan. He's not going to show up. He's going to show up in things that are too easy. He's going to show up in pleasure that is too readily accessible, right? Instant satisfaction, things like that. Things like, substances and stuff that can just, make you feel a certain way straight away within seconds of taking it and stuff. Drinking alcohol. I do all of those things. I don't give a crap because I'm not religious and stuff, right? But I can see how those things might be sins in the terms of or temptation from Satan in the terms of the temptation is to end up relying on them. The existence of them is not Satan. The taking part in them initially is not Satan. Doing some yoga because you enjoy doing yoga, that's not Satan, right? But then, I don't know who does this, but somebody then relying on yoga to solve all of their problems and be their escape from everything else in their life that's going wrong, that might start to be leading over into the temptation. And again, I don't believe that literally a physical God or a physical Satan exists. I don't even believe that it's God. I call it the universe. It's just the consciousness of the universe. And as far as I'm concerned, the devil, the Satan, whatever they, people want to call it and stuff, again, not a physical being or anything, but it's the human condition. It's the darkness of the human condition that can show up, because the darkness in us that is tempted towards unhealthy decisions and unhealthy routines, relationships, people, situations, etc., etc. The temptation to take a quick get rich quick scheme. It's not a physical thing. I think it's just 2,000 years ago they needed to help people conceptualize what they were talking about, whether the spiritual lessons that certain people taught, yes, Jesus probably being one of them. It's like a way of framing it. It was helping people to conceptualize, this is what we mean. We don't necessarily literally mean a physical God or a physical Satan, although the book is, by the time it got to them writing that stupid Bible, which I do love. Okay, I enjoy reading the Bible because I read it like I read Skullduggery Pleasant. I'm not taking any of this literally. I'm not reading this going, oh, I should be doing this, and if I'm not, I'm going to hell. Because I don't read Skullduggery Pleasant and go, oh, I better start learning how to throw things through the air and shoot magical fireballs from my hands. By the time they got around to writing the book, I'm sure the lesson, the message, the conceptualization had become so warped from what the original meaning was, So it's, it kind of, it's what happens. It's what happens. And I think the internet is changing that, because obviously we can communicate so much faster now. Things don't have to take thousands of years to travel from one side of the globe to another. An idea, a concept, a story, fictional or non-fictional, information, a discovery. It doesn't have to wait for years and years now. We can just literally get it 30 seconds after it's happened. Which is awesome. I love it. I do love it. So that's a huge part of what's changed here as well. And I think the Bible has just become it's become slightly irrelevant. Not the overall meaning of Christianity, look after your neighbors, look after yourself, make this world a better place, leave them alone because they're doing their own different thing and you don't have to hate on them, blah, blah, blah. But so many of these extremely severely religious people, they don't even operate in that. They just operate from a place of, well, if you're not doing this, then something's wrong with you, or you're a bad person or whatever. I'm a good person because I am part of this religion. You're not part of the religion, ergo you're a bad person. Like, oh my gosh, you completely missed the point of your own damn religion. Come on. Are we that stupid? Yes, we are. That's why you needed religion in the first place, is because there was no critical thinking. Religion takes away the need for critical thinking, by which I mean extreme, severe religious views. Many people are happily religious and it provides them benefit in their day, and they don't care about what anybody else is, and they are happy to get to know people and interact with people and have friends and family who are not part of their religion, and it's no problemo for them at all. Okay, but we're not talking about them. Yeah, we're not talking about them. You guys, do your thing. I'm sure you agree with most of what I'm saying here too. We're talking about the extremos. religious nuts, as we would kind of call them here in the UK. It's hard to determine now because we do have extremism being its own thing, which always has been around. You know, I'm pretty sure Hitler and his guys, those guys were extremists. So it's been around. It's not like it's a new thing, but I just think it's a new term. So when I say extremist views, I don't necessarily mean like terrorism and things like that, but extremist views are just so tightly held, like they're so rigid, and they're usually formed on things like fear, anxiety, doubt. And I don't know, that just feels like Satan's kind of doing his job to me. If that's the place you're operating from, I think he's doing his job, you know? So maybe you want to ask yourself, do I actually need religion to be a good person? You know? And I'm talking to the religious nuts here because, again, most people listening to this are not going to be religious nuts. Because it's just not the world I operate in. I don't attract that kind of thing or whatever, you know? But it's just, this podcast is a space for me to get out all of my thinkings, all of my rantings, and all of my ravings. And hey, just start a conversation with it as well, you know? And what does people think about these kinds of things? Have you had any of your own experiences and stuff? Were you once part of this? Have you broken free from that? Have you seen somebody get into it and lose themselves to it? I mean, it's borderline cultish, isn't it? It's like taking a standing religion, Christianity, and making it a bit cultish. Which, actually, is going to be our next episode. I'm going to keep with this religious thing real quick. I want to do a part 2 to this, because I also found another Reddit post that was really cool. Well, not cool, it's a bit weird, but I wanted to read it to you. I haven't read through the whole thing, like I said. It's about what's it called? Let me just check what it's called. The Word of Faith Fellowship. So the Word of Faith Fellowship is a New Testament church, which I had to look up because the way that it's run, which we will talk about in the next episode, I thought it was a cult. I genuinely 100% thought it was a cult the entire time until I looked up, okay, what's New Testament church? Like, is that a thing? No, that's like just a bit of Christianity. They're not even a cult, except they are literally a cult, right? It's like a housing association. Imagine a homeowners association set up church within a sect of Christianity. That is the Word of Faith Fellowship. With a sprinkling of cult in there as well. Okay, so that's going to be in the next episode, you guys. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave me a review or like it on YouTube and leave a comment or whatever, anything to just help with the exposure. I want to see what you guys are thinking, and if you guys have had any of your own experiences and stuff, that would be fun. And yeah, I will be around for the next one at some point. It's Christmas right now, you guys. If you can't see on YouTube, I'm wearing my Grinch jumper right now because it is officially Christmas. So it's going to be a little bit choppy over the next few weeks and stuff. If I can get recorded, I will. If not, then I'll just be back in the new year, you guys, with a whole brand new episode, specifically part 2 of this. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here, and I'll speak to you in the next one.